Flight Boss, bitch. You know, for sure. You're now listening to the Mind Eminent Terry's Moon, Flight Boss, the Archangel Uriel, and I'm here to carry out God duties and motherfucking responsibilities. And right now, I want to explain how to clearly see the astrological ages. Because, you know, there's a lot of people on the internet who talk about the ages. They explaining the ages. They explaining the energy that the age is giving off. They telling you the age we in. But they don't necessarily know what the fuck an age is. So I'm Archangel Uriel and I'm here to help everybody. So I'm going to sit here and explain what the fuck is an age. So what is an age? Now, for the most part, on the most surface level, an age is nothing more, nothing less but time. How do we know that? Because how did you get to the age that you are today? Due to your experience and your time. So age is nothing more, nothing less but time. But let's go a little further than that. Time is nothing more, nothing less but space and location. An area in space. So you probably thinking right now, like, that don't make sense, Dolo. How does that make sense? How is time an area in space and location? Okay, for the most part, let's break it down like this, right? Now, when you got things like an age, in order for it to be an age, which is a time period, it has to be experienced. So as a spirit, we travel through that astral travel. We travel through that space. And through that experience, it becomes a time period. Now that time period gets considered an age. You see what I'm saying? So once we travel through that age period, right? AKA, we travel through a space, a time, and a location. So through that time span, we was traveling through an area, a Pacific space. You see what I'm saying? So in that area, Pacific space, that travel becomes time and experience. And then once we go through that time and experience, we call it an age. So now, check this out. That's what age is. Age is nothing more but time, and time is nothing more but an area and space and location that we are traveling through at the moment. So when you get the year, you get the decade, the century, the months, the week, the year, the fucking day, all the way, the days, which is this a maze, is this a Pacific space we're traveling through at a Pacific time, all the way till you get the fucking hour of the motherfucking day, to this fucking second. So what you think is time is really us as spirits traveling through each space in this astral realm. Now, within physical forms. So now that you understand what an age is, right? Now, it's a time period, it's a time frame. So this it would help you understand. A lot of people think that the brain and the mind was created first, and it wasn't. The heart and the stomach area was created first, because how do we know this? We know that what motivates your thoughts and what motivates your actions is your internal, your emotions, your feelings, things that's correlated with the heart, things that's correlated with the internal realm. The heart just the physical external version of it, but it still layers within you also. So you know, things that's dealing with the heart and the feelings and emotions, you catch feelings and vibes before you catch thoughts. You have to experience and catch a feeling first before you start to process thoughts. You see what I'm saying? So this is letting you understand that the heart and the stomach area was created first. So now I'm finna get you to clearly understand how to see the ages from a physical standpoint and an astrological standpoint. Now that we got that out the way. So from an astrological standpoint, the first age is actually Virgo. Now, from a physical standpoint, the first bodies we was creating for ourselves as spirits was mental bodies, which start to manifest as the first nerve system for the fluids can flow through. So we started creating the nerve systems, which is our tethering cords, our wiring cords, and construction cords first. So this is why Virgo may have similar energies of correlating to the intellect and mental into the physical realm. But for the most part, the space and the location that we are in, I'm not talking about the whole universe and galaxy, the space that we are in, there was an earth and feminine energy here correlating. So the things that manifest out of that spiritual space, that spirit was resonating with the earth energy, so it started manifesting out of the vortex and creating shapes and forms that correlate with the earth element first. You see what I'm saying? So here, all the groupings of stars and things of that nature that reside to the Virgo constellation that's traveling now through Libra and all that, those was created first in this space. So even the Saturn star, Uranus star, you got stars like Spica, So you know, when you get into Vedic, they like to follow lost stars and not understand what these lost stars are doing. So they just give these stars rulership to the Pacific space, where the space is the spirit. So once that star leaves, that star already got a spirit in it traveling. But Vedic Eastern will try to get you to believe that that star that's traveling still is the ruler of that energy, where really you have to know where you come from to know where you're going. And that star Spica was birthed out of that space, just like every other star was birthed out of that space. And just because that star was vibrating harder than other stars, aka had a bigger part of the spirit than the other spirits, and the other spirits was following that one, doesn't mean that one is all powerful and mighty and it's the Lord and it's the controller of something. See, it's a big, deep psychological nature that each astrologer should get into before you start to resonate with certain concepts of astrology. Astrology is just astrology. Once you start to break it down with words and dissect it and separate it with different ones, we would get lost. See, I'm telling you the truthness of this. You see what I'm saying? So the first constellation groupings of stars was created out of this space that we are in right now. So a lot of the close stars that you see and all the constellations and things was formulated from this earthly space, and this spirit that was resonating with the earth element was creating a bunch of earth children, shapes and forms and vessels to inhabit, to experience this dream. So you got Saturn stars and Spica and all these, and all the way until you get the constellation Virgo. So this is us as spirits taking the most lightest shapes and forms to create our vessel. So when you hear things like mankind, how we got to man is through these ages. And then we get full man. So now we're in the age of man. But it's the age of centaur, really. But that's another video. But look, check this out. After all of us as taking shapes and forms and created, and now we're blood cells as the wiring and our veins and shit like that, as far as the Virgo constellation, right? Then the Virgo constellation itself, as all of us as one, gave birth to the Leo constellation. So on an astrological note, the Leo constellation started getting controlled. Now, on a physical level, this was us controlling our solar us creating our solar plexus. You see what I'm saying? Us creating our sun bodies, our conscious bodies. So we all have a piece of that. So we all took a piece of that light form to inhabit as spirits to start, and AKA we became bigger organisms and we took those as spirits and we started creating the stomach area. So now we started creating the stomach area and the guts and things. We developed our passion and shit throughout this travel. Now, right? So now the Leo constellation is being created, and the solar plexus is being created. Okay, now what's next? What's next is the Cancer constellation. So now with our suns, as us taking all these light bodies, we're all just acting out as lights now. This is how we just all look. That's how we all look together. Now with those bodies, we started creating the heart. You see what I'm saying? So now we started creating our subconscious, our soul. Now we're starting to become individuals. But that's on a physical level. On an astrological level, now the Cancer constellation is being created. And this is what you need to understand also. This is where all the shapes and forms is being manifested. So I want all my flat earthers to listen to this also, because this is going to help y'all understand clearly, not to get lost into that. But, you know, this also how land masses get created and how countries and civilizations get created out of these energy signatures. Us as spirits traveling through these spaces on a micro and macro level. On a micro, you start to see the physical representations of land and stuff like that. On a macro, you start to see us as spirits become more bigger blood cells and creating a bigger part of the area of body that we're creating to live in. Now, I just don't want to. All right, now, so after that, we're basically creating like the moon and shit like that, and how the moon interacts. So now after that, we go into Gemini. We start creating the Gemini constellation. We start creating the lungs, and with the other layers of bodies, with the sun and the moon and shit like that. We start creating the lungs, And right here, this becomes a square to where we came from out of this space, which is the earth. So those nerve tetherings gets connected with the lungs and things of that nature. And this is where we start to create the twins. Well, really, it's just the lungs, but we're creating the dualities of ourselves before we truly get to the five. The perfection the will is in to become physical here. But so as blood cells, we're already physical, just on a light level, and we're living in the existence of the chest, but we're living how we're living now. But it's just in this realm of reality, our conscious level, and what we're doing as far as information and relating to each other on a higher scale is just us creating the chest area. So then we leave from that age period, and we called it the age of Gemini, but that's just the age. Now, it might have been certain rulers and certain hierarchies and certain spirits and bodies and blood cells that reigned supreme in that time. So once we get into the next age, they're going to be remembered. But it's all of us dying and reaching the age, becoming higher blood forms and things. But it's really just us trying to remember how the last motherfucker did it and do it in their same mechanism. But then what happens is you have a new nigga who come, a new girl or a new guy who come and have their own way. So they end up being the most rememberable one in the new age. And then you see what I'm saying? There's always someone who have to fight the old way, the old light, the old knowledge, the old blood cell ways of coming to the new one. Because the old blood cell spirit come into the next level of life, just like the previous one, but he still or she still want all their followers and still want to reach the egg before everybody else and play take and turn type shit. But for the most part, boom, then we get to the age of Taurus. So now we start creating the throat. We start creating a throat and shit like that and things of that nature and with things that we value and shit like that and animals that y'all get like the ram and Palladians and this is where you get the Palladians and shit like that. So at that time, the Palladians is nothing more, nothing less but a group of beings that reside in your throat area as a constellation, and that's as below and as above, right? They control over the moon. They're above. This is why they appear to be above the moon, because the age of Cancer, then Gemini, then Taurus. So Taurus right here, Palladians right here, it would appear that they sit above. You see what I'm saying? But it's really not above or below. It's just different aspects of life. Now, the larger aspect of life and things of that nature, this is where them group of beings and things of that, and Hades and things of that, and coming into the physical realm in a more harsh way, in a more heavier way, not a light way anymore, and more developing the organs start to take place. And we start to speak and shit like that. Speak shit into existence and shit. So then after that, we get Aries, right? So now we are, as blood cells, we have divided or died or transformed as spirits and took bigger blood and created bigger blood cells. Now we're creating the face and the head and the brain and shit like that. So now we're creating this shit. So this is where the concept came from of the angels and the cherubim and all that shit. Because now that we're up here and we're a little bit more conscious, now we get to create external aspects of our inner self. So this is why it's correlated with fire and transformation in the most lightest bodies, and where our inner fire can be spoke out into and formulated as far as in thought and air. And you see what I'm saying? In air, the age of Aries. And this is why the sun is exalted here, because once the sun come up here, we didn't keep developing up. As a solar plexus, we're rolling. So once you see, this is why the sun always appears to be rising, because the platforms that the sun created is traveling with it. But the sun is on a rotation travel. So to us, it appears that the sun is always rising, but the sun is just going into a different space and location. So you have a different space and location that may be darker than other different spaces and locations. So for the most part, where we at, we're just following this, going into different spaces and locations. So to us, it always appear to be rising, but to it itself is in a rotation itself. You get what I'm trying to say for people to understand? And then that's the solar plexus. So once all of us as blood cells created the head, we went on our rotate and we went down. So now we started creating things. Once we went on our rotation and expand as a grouping of fluids and shit like that, we went down and started creating after where we started from, which will be after Virgo, on the other side of Virgo. So now we started creating our other half. So which is Libra. We started creating the Libra constellation. So astrological wise, that will be the age of Libra. And physical wise, that would be the age of starting to create our lower halves below our solar plexus and things of that nature. And after the veins and shit like that. So we become beings that's starting to create the legs, or starting to create platform beings that we can stand upright. But right now we're just swimming. So to us as cells, we may have seen ourselves as fish at this time, the way fish see themselves, and the way fish perceive the realm of reality they are in. We kind of was like that before we started creating our lower, the age of Libra, and as blood cells, now we finna start creating our lower halves, and now we start to gain abilities or how to walk, and we start to create imaginations of dry land. But this is really just our imagination, if you get what I'm saying. Now, all right, so now that we create the other half in the age of Libra, this extends, so we go into the age of Scorpio. So this is how we learn how to create physical forms to mimic what we're doing as spirits, as far as joining, two of us join together to create another one, which is a vortex. But we're learning how to do that through the vortex energy bodies and illusions that we're creating for ourselves. So here, once we get into the age of Scorpio, astrological wise, physical, human wise, as part of the man and woman, mankind, we're creating the sexual organs now. The how to come in and come out of these existence. This is why this is shared value and beneath the realm and the 8th house area and shit like that. So now we're creating that area as far as solar plexus and all the other layers we've been creating as spirits and blood cells and things of that nature. Spirits inhabiting blood cells, and blood cells is the creation. Spirits, we the creator. So creator is from a high mountaintop. Creation is from the below. Now that's what so this extends us. So we've been creating, now we're creating the sexual organs and things of that nature to mimic. Okay, and then now we go into the age of Sagittarius. So now we're gaining wisdom and knowledge on how to travel within this realm of reality and out of this realm of reality. We're gaining wisdom and knowledge, and it's creating experiences of us. So now we want to preach that, and now how to travel that metaphysically, manifestation wise, it start to appear that we're creating the thighs of the kind that we're in. And because as we go through all the ages, that creates a kind, which is the groupings of lights emitting and relating each other, and that kind is how spirits go into that realm and experience itself. So you got mankind, animal kind, all kind of different kinds. Now we're creating the thighs and things of that nature, Sagittarius. So this gives us the ability to travel, but we're also traveling as blood cells and giving each other higher wisdom and knowledge on how to come in and out of this realm of reality. So you could kind of correlate to Sagittarius who play that out in this lifetime. Now we start to create, now we're creating the kneecaps. We need to stabilize ourselves on that travel. We need something to stand on, a foundation, something that's practical to make sense out of this. So now we're in the age of Capricorn. So we're creating the kneecaps physically, but astrological wise, we're going through the age of Capricorn. Then we go to the shins. We need it's kind of weird information that we're applying to this stuff. So we're becoming scientists as blood cells and creating higher realms and creating shapes and forms of weird quirkiness. So we're creating the shins. We're creating mobileness for the stability nature that we just came from, which is Capricorn. So that's the age of Aquarius. And then we get to the feet. That would be the age of Pisces. So we're creating a foundation for ourselves, which is Pisces, and the depth and most deepness of ourselves. And now we have the ability to walk also and stand upright from the water. And then also we're walking on water now. That's what y'all don't know. Land ain't nothing but a more dense version, lower vibrational version of a fluid, of a subconscious. Y'all not getting this. Now the feet is Pisces. So as that age, we created the feet, but astrological wise, we're creating the age of Pisces for ourselves. So there's a bunch of beings within the age of Pisces that formulated out of that. Now, then you have the 4 energetic pieces of the body. That's rude. So so as the coming out of the fallen and things of that nature, I control the fallen, which is Uriel. So this is the solar plexus area of this life, getting ready to go down to the fallen end. But as we go up, right, you have Michael creating up here, which y'all will call the East, but it's just the head space of the being that we are in. This is why Archangel Michael revolve into the eye of the bull constellation right now and sit there as a physical shape and form with a spirit being in it. See what I'm saying? You need to know area of space. See, all religions is about the stars and astrology is about the body we are in, and your body. You see what I'm saying? So astrology helps you understand what area and location that you are in at the moment. which that's what y'all think is time, but it's really just space and location that we're traveling, micro and macro. So you know, once we get all the ages together creates a kind, and that kind is a whole century or a whole manifestation of that age. You know what I'm saying? And that'll be a being that we live in. So how you know what time the being that we about to die, that we are in, is getting ready to die, is correlating to age. So same way, you say you live for what? You live for about 80 to 70 years in your lifetime right now. Now, your blood cells, to a day to you is a year to them. So this lets you know how much blood cells renewal, how many new blood cells you get after 3 to 6 months or something like that. That lets you know when you get ready to die, you're just a lesser blood cell into the bigger life. So a bigger life, so let's say 10 years, or let's say a day to the being that we are in is a year to us. Is a whole year to us. So 80 days to us is like, 80 years to us is 80 days to the being that we are in. You see what I'm saying? So that being only lived like jail time, 3 months or something like that. In the time that you are a blood cell, die and transform and go into another blood cell to live a longer external expansion and contraction. You see what I'm saying? So that's understanding the ages. Understanding the ages is just understanding each world that we're building, each space that we're building at the time. So right now we're in the age of the centaur. So y'all motherfuckers want to add the 13 and build a tail and build and shit like that. We don't need to build no tail. We need to go to another age and things of that nature. A lot of y'all think we in the age of Aquarius. So y'all want to repeat what we already have done. We already added body parts. We are, what you don't understand is we are Aquarius. So when I say the equator, I think I'm saying that you're wrong. Ecliptic, not the equator, the ecliptic. The ecliptic is our band, our belt. Your Pacific ecliptic, from you are a smaller version of the being we are in. So your ecliptic is Aries through Pisces. So look at the constellations, that the constellations Aries through Pisces as your blood tissue, your vessel, your ecliptic band. Your solar system ain't leaving your ecliptic band. Your soul ain't getting out of your body. Your inner fluids ain't getting out of your body. All your individual bodies you created for yourself as an overall spirit to experience itself. You see what I'm saying? You're not leaving these layers. So same way you look at the solar system, that's why it's traveling through the ecliptic band. The ecliptic band is Aries through Pisces. Pisces is the feet of the being we are in. Aries is the head we are in. And you can break that down all in between. Cancer is the heart area. Leo is the stomach area. Virgo is the nervous area. Taurus is the throat area. You know what I'm saying? Gemini is the lung area. You see what I'm saying? Scorpio is the sexual organ area. So this is helping you understand what you are in. When you go outside, it's really Osmosis Jones type shit. When you go outside, it's really like you could say you are a blood cell. Say if you wanted to look what is life. Just take yourself out of your shoes and put yourself in the shoes of one of your blood cells. Now take yourself back out of that and put yourself in the shoes of what you are now. It's the same shit. Just more access to it. More larger life. It's the same shit. You're in a bigger being. Repeating the same shit. Just with larger, more access. More dream. More imagination. You could perceive. More space you could perceive. More location. More area that you are in. You see what I'm saying? So when you think about an age, that's what an age is. So a lot of y'all... That's why y'all get confused and thinking we're in the age of Aquarius, because y'all believe into astronomers too much, and astronomers give y'all limitations, because astronomers just want you to know what the lost stars, where those stars are at the moment. Like I said, where Aries has started is not where Aries at now. But to know how them group of stars are playing out, you need to know where they came from, the space. So once we go back to the space, yeah, it might be another grouping of stars in that space right now, but to know how their influence in that space is to know the energy of that space. So now we know what's in that space, but now we know if those stars is having a hard time or having a good time in that space. And we know what kind of conditions they're going to create for us as lesser life in this space. You see what I'm saying? By knowing that. So this helps you not get lost into repetition, into thinking we doing the age of Aquarius again. You know what I'm saying? We're not doing the age of Aquarius again. And then once you understand that too, you'll start to think that the same grouping of stars is rotating in that same space again. No, you never know what kind of, those might be alienated stars. Stars from way other constellations, other beings who then gave us information, talk to us or have sex with the being that we are in, and spit a bunch of seeds, blood cells into us, to now they foreign to us and we end up going to war and shit like that. But really, those stars are traveling through that space right now. How you know that ain't the fact? But you lost into astronomer versions of looking at shit, and they make you think that these don't have no energetic frequencies to them. These are just stars traveling, and there's no other meaning behind it. So you think you're an astronomer, but you really lost and indoctrinated into somebody else's concept of giving you that understanding. So be aware of that also. But for the most part, what you truly need to understand is, you know, talking about the ages, this is what an age truly is. It's not what you need to get lost into. It's just a space and an area, a location that we're traveling through for the moment. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, so this is why you have rulerships of each days. You got Mercury ruling Wednesday. You got Jupiter ruling Thursday. You know what I'm saying? And you have 7 days, 7 chakras, 7 planets. Now, you have the distant planets, which is Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune. Since they got so distant, they moved into another realm of reality. But since they're from this realm of reality, we still know how to channel them. So so a lot of times we have to channel through our close planets and channel Neptune, which is our dreams, Uranus, which is our uniqueness, Pluto, which is our transformation energy, in order to know how to transform into other realms of realities. This is why Pluto rules the sexual organs, co-rules the sexual organs. Uranus co-rules our thought processes and our shins, and Neptune co-rules the feet. You see what I'm saying? And our actual travel out here, which is the dreams and imagination. So the feet area of the being that we are in is actual like dreams and imagination to us, how we look at it, and where that being is traveling. But see, Neptune, Pluto, and Uranus used to be close. You know what I'm saying? But they're not close anymore. So so those spaces and locations to travel through, we don't necessarily travel through those spaces and locations. Those like outer travel spaces and locations now. So there's no longer 10 days. You know what I'm saying? There's only 7 days. So we have to construct our calendar in our space the best way we can so we don't get off track. So you get a bunch of other lost, indoctrinated versions of doing this, which is like calendars and shit like that. But really, it's just us as spirits coming up with shapes and forms of calculating the space that we are in the best way we can, because we have some sense of us traveling and losing and being further away from other spaces than we was before, and locations than we was before. You see what I'm saying? So that's why you have to look at that like that. Spaces spread. Once we expand and contract, certain spaces expand, and where we at, that space expand farther, so we can't travel through that space no more. So, but since that space we once was traveling through those spaces we still can perceive those spaces, and we can understand other stars that may travel through that space. And this is where we correlate through the spaces of Venus. I mean not Venus, but Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune. So now they could be perceived as stars and planets to us, but really there's just worlds to go into for lesser life to go into and act as wombs and to experience what we have already experienced. So that's why we will know what lesser stars will know as far as particle and light photons, as far as our life, where we at now. The life that's traveling through that is this light forms and light shit like that. It ain't even the heavier yet, like we can correlate, say, other constellations traveling through stars and planets. We almost as light. We're just like Pluto and them. That's just a level of life right after us. So we can kind of see it in that kind of sharpness and definition and dimension and shit. But yeah, that's what an age is. Flight boss, bitch. Goddamn air.